Introduce Surbhi Vedhara, who's going to talk to it before we get started, if she doesn't mind. And then obviously we've got Gil, who has put so much work in to setting up this event this evening. So, Surbhi, welcome. Thank you. Yeah, so Surbhi, since you joined Sweeney Miller Law in 2007 as a paralegal, you've managed to work your way up to the position of managing partner within 14 years. That is a remarkable trajectory. And you have collected a number of accolades, including Northern Businesswoman of the Year in 2024, and in 2023, the Inspiring Female Award Northeast from the Chamber of Commerce. So that's really something special indeed. And in addition, you've set up a scholarship scheme between Sweeney Miller, your firm, and the law school, which benefits students from Newcastle University who achieve certain criteria. In other words, they do well in equity, contract and land law. So that's something that we need to flag up, isn't it? And they get a substantial sum of money and an opportunity for work experience with your firm. Perhaps we could start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe also about the scholarship scheme.
So I'm Surbhi Vedhara, as Bronwen has just said. I'm managing partner at Sweeney Miller Solicitors. I don't know if you know about the firm, but we have two offices, one in Gosforth in Newcastle and the other one in Sunderland. So we are sort of a business services firm, if you like. We do commercial services like corporate law, commercial property, residential conveyancing, estate planning, family law, litigation, all those kind of services, mainstream commercial services other than crime, which we stay clear of. And a little bit about the scholarship program. This is the 5th year that we're going to be running it.
Yeah,
is that right, Bronwen?
That's right.
Which works fantastically well. A large part of our firm is about attracting the right people to come and work for us. It's about handpicking the best talent. And we've had fantastic success with that, with Newcastle being the top university in our area. Almost always the people that get the scholarship and even the ones that kind of get shortlisted end up working for us, at least for a period of time. Last year's been Luke, who is assisting me on commercial property matters. We've got Olivia, who was the runner-up, who's with us. And we have had other people in the past as well who have made their way to Sweeney Miller from Newcastle Law School. So there's a pathway straight from law school into work, which works really well through the scholarship scheme.
Yeah, it certainly does. And just a little bit more about you. Could you tell us a bit about yourself? You know, who is Surbhi Vedhara?
I'm a mother. First of all, mother of 2 kids. We were just talking about my daughter who's at uni studying law, so, very similar position to you guys. So that's firstly. I'm also somebody who employs a lot of people, so, I almost see them as an extended family because a lot of the kids, I say kids, people that come to work for us are often similar ages to my own children. Not all of them, of course, but many of them do. So that's who I am, and a large part of me is about nurturing them into the profession.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surbhi, you mentioned, that kind of that Indian pushy mother with your child. So just kind of paved the way of how you reached here. So what was your childhood like? Did you have like a similar mother that was like, oh, you need to go into law? Or were you always interested into the legal world?
No, not really. I grew up in Mumbai in India.
Yeah.
And I'm giving my age away here. This was about 35 years ago now.
This is where it was called Bombay still.
Yeah,
so Bombay. Yeah, of course.
In those days, girls' education was almost nice to have. It wasn't something that was essential. It wasn't something that, girls must get educated and have a career. It was almost a rite of passage to get a good husband. And, once you've done that, everything else is kind of, on the side. So in that backdrop, I did a management degree. So, I had a degree there. And I was doing an MBA, but I moved here, I got married and moved here. I left the MBA halfway through, moved here. And when I did move here, I kind of toyed with the idea of redoing the MBA or starting again with an MBA. But there wasn't a lot I could do with that in Newcastle. Again, in those days, there was only really Procter & Gamble, which was one head office, which they had here. It wasn't the big business center that it is now. I have a lot of lawyers in my family. Bronwen knows a lot of my extended family. We've got lawyers and a judge in the family.
Oh, okay.
So I was influenced by them, and I ended up doing the Common Professional Exam, as it was called then, GDL now, with Northumbria University, and here I am.
Oh, so was it just the family that kind of made you think, oh, law is like the degree for me to get into?
I think it was more by default I ended up in law because I couldn't do anything else with the subjects I had.
Right.
So, when I came here, not knowing what I wanted to do, I had no kind of focus on any kind of career. But without having to redo my A-levels, this was the only thing that by process of elimination I could do.
Okay.
And given that there was a strong legal tradition in the family with other lawyers, I almost just went into it and gave it a try, and it fell into it rather than by design.
Clearly it worked out really well for you.
In hindsight, yes. Yeah. It did.
Yep. So when you were going through your legal education at Northumbria, the what's now known as the GDL.
Yes. Yeah.
What did you like about it, and what did you not like? What were the best bits?
My first lesson in land law, and I knew that was my calling. I knew that is it, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. There were numerous people on the same course who hated land law, who dropped out of uni just because of land law. And I just failed to understand that, because for me that was like the ultimate thing. I had been waiting for this all my life.
Bronwen will be very proud of you.
You call me weird. But absolutely loved it, and absolutely loved the course, and loved, like I said, a lot of people did drop out because it was a very intensive course. It was a 4-year degree squashed into 1 year. It was very intensive, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wouldn't say there was any part of it that I didn't like.
Right, and what about extracurricular? Did you manage, while you were doing your GDL, did you manage to sort of get work experience, or, what other activities did you do alongside?
I didn't really, to be honest, because it was such an intensive course that there wasn't really room for anything else. Obviously, the 4-year degree is spread out, or a 3-year degree is spread out over 3 years.
Yeah.
So you have the time to do a lot of other things and do work
Just get pushed into 1 year of just pure intensity.
1 year, intense
no, of course.
lessons every single day. And there were no breaks, so it was just a non-stop, year of a lot to do in a year.
You mentioned how your family has a tradition in the legal sector. Was that back home in India, or did you have some bases here?
Over here.
Were they all solicitors?
Yeah,
and a judge.
All
solicitors, yeah. So it's kind of easy. Did you ever play with the idea of, like a barrister or a solicitor? Or if it was just like a straight line, I want to be a solicitor, this is what I want to do?
I didn't know the difference.
Okay.
To be honest, when I started off, again, I was very new to the country. I was, I had just moved here from India at the time. I didn't know the difference. I didn't know why you would be one over the other. Now, I'm glad I chose the path that I did, only because I feel being a barrister has certain other challenges. When you're self-employed, you're starting off, it's a very different, it's harder to get a pupillage. So I'm glad I did what I did. But at the time, I didn't know the difference, and I just followed what everybody else was doing, like a herd, So yeah, that's what I ended up doing.
So what was your journey? So once you left Northumbria and you started, how did you get into law? How did you get your position as a paralegal? And what was that journey like from paralegal to managing partner?
It's a big jump. 14 years is too short of a time.
Feels like a long
Clearly
time
not
ago.
for you.
I started as a paralegal. I got an entry-level job at another local law firm. I won't name names, but I absolutely hated it. Hated it so much that, literally wanted to drop out at that point. It was, literally the worst kind of job experience that I had.
What was it about it that was so awful?
Just no support, no supervision. The people running it weren't exactly there around, and you were left to deal with a lot of complaints and disgruntled clients, and the structures weren't there. It's a very different firm now, but at the time when I started off there, it was a very different firm, and I hated it so much that I did the next best thing and decided to get pregnant and have a baby instead and take some time out, which was, again, in hindsight, a good thing. While I was on maternity leave, I got a call from Peter Sweeney and Paul Miller, who were Sweeney and Miller at the time, who had my CV from before, when I had sent hundreds of CVs, just scattergun approach and just applied to hundreds of firms. And they called me 3 months into my maternity leave and offered me the job, and it was a great meeting. I met them very informally, had a nice catch-up, and they offered me the job. Problem was, at this point, I was 3 months into my maternity with a little baby. I had this particular firm was just a small little firm in Sunderland, so no other presence anywhere. So I left what was then a bigger firm to go to a little firm in Sunderland with a little baby that I had to drop into nursery every day, and go to Sunderland and, the other side of Sunderland as well. It wasn't the easiest place to get to. So I did that for a while, but in hindsight, that was, again, the best thing. And with the benefit of hindsight, you do things the way you do, but it worked out all right.
Yeah, so you have made quite a lot of sacrifices along the way. Is there anything else you feel you've had to give up?
I wouldn't say there's sacrifices as much as choices that you make along the way. And, some choices, we all make choices. We're all here today doing something that I'm sure this is not as fun as being in a pub or being out with friends or whatever else students do, nowadays. We all make these choices because we think they're important. We think it's important to do them. So I've had to make similar choices. And I wouldn't say they're unique to me, but obviously they did come at a personal cost. I've had a small baby that I had to leave and go.
Right.
I mean, I remember the times I used to drag my kids to work, stick them in a meeting room with an iPad and McDonald's, and just and they hated coming to work with me because they were just there. I'm not winning Mother of the Year anytime soon, for sure, but I'm sure hopefully they will appreciate the choices I've made, and the fact that my daughter's doing law means I've done something right. So.
We've all seen the TV shows when it comes to the legal world and Suits. The big one. One thing that's like proposed by Suits, and you see in every episode, that in the office till like 9 o'clock in the night. And I think from my time working in a law firm as well, I've seen lawyers work till 2 a.m. in the night. I've got emails from them saying, hey, can you please draft this? And I'm like, asleep. No, not doing it. So how do you like manage that work-life balance, especially for you, because you're managing the entire firm?
Yes, that does happen, with sort of, particularly with some areas like corporate law. A lot of it is about bravado. It's about the big London firms and the big London lawyers and how late can we stay up and how late can we complete a deal or whatever. So a lot of that, does happen in certain areas of law. But the majority of the areas that we do, most people finish at a reasonable time and they're not there all hours of the day. But to answer your question about work-life balance, I don't necessarily like the term work-life balance because I think what that indicates is that you have to do something, you have to work to then be able to live your life as if they're two distinct things.
Yep.
And when work is such an integral part of my life, you can't separate the two out.
Yep.
There's no imaginary line that, work ends at this point and my life begins at that point. So it's about managing and about making sure that work forms a large part of what you do and finding ways around it, whether it's, I had a call from a client on a Sunday, I wasn't doing anything, I picked it up. I could have said, no, it's my day off and I'm going to do it.
Of course.
But having seen my dad, who's run a successful business in India, that's something that I've picked up from them, where things don't just come to a stop and then you don't. 90% of the people at my own wedding were my dad's business associates. They're so intertwined that you can't separate the two out.
I think my question, if I can rephrase it, would be, you said you have children at home and you have this firm you're managing. And I guess my question is like, you got to manage your home life. And the work life, as you said, is always intertwined. And, I don't think in any of our careers we expect that it's going to stop, especially in corporate firms or anything. I'm trying to be a barrister. I don't think at like 9 a.m. my work's going to stop, 9 p.m. my work's going to stop. You said you're a mother, you run a firm, you got lawyers to manage, you do the Sweeney Miller scholarship that Bronwen's told me you take very, very seriously. So how do you just manage all of that? It just seems like a lot of things to manage.
They are, but having the right people, that part of your firm makes all of the difference. And that's why, we have this, the scholarship allows us to get the right people. Luke is integral to what I do. He's last year's winner. He's probably sat in the office working now. But, having the right people is what makes you manage. Because if you are going to try and do every single thing yourself, there's only so much you can do. And that's why it's important to have the right support structure around you. Make sure that when I need support, I've got somebody picking up my son today from school. It's important to have those right structures. Otherwise, there's only so much you can do.
Do you think there are any like key habits and strategies that you use? What are the kind of qualities you think in yourself has allowed you to kind of manage your workflow and everything around you?
Personal discipline is very important. Being disciplined, being focused as to what you want, how you want to get there, and being realistic, I think, is really important. Is not expecting that you will be here today and managing partner in and a lot of people don't understand
In 14 years.
time. Well, 14 years is a long time.
Yes, no,
it's
of
a long
course.
enough time, and yes, you can make partner in 14 years. So that's not really that long a journey. But a lot of people have this unrealistic expectation that they're going to walk in, they're going to get a training contract, which used to be the case in obviously it's SQE now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always happen. You have to work to get somewhere. So it's managing those being realistic about expectations is very important.
What about challenges, though? So, life happens, doesn't it, as we're trying to sort of plan and do things. How do you push through those difficulties, the challenging times? What kind of strategies do you have for that?
Part of it depends on the kind of challenge. I remember when 2007 I started off as a paralegal. February 2007 at Sweeney Miller, and in September the 2007 banking crash happened. So literally people around me got made redundant, there was nobody left. I was 2 days into my commercial property seat, which was my chosen area. I wanted to do that. There was work there, there were clients there, but suddenly the supervisor above me had gone. He was redundant. So I had to find ways and means to learn the area, keep clients happy, keep the work going, and make sure that I was delivering, because the work had to be done, the firm had to be. I was a paralegal.
Work
then.
goes on regardless of what happens outside. Yeah.
So all of those things, shy bairns getting out, as they say in Newcastle. I don't know if you've heard the term, but I had to call in every favour that I could to try and get precedence, to try and ask people for help, all those kind of things. So part of it depends on the kind of challenge.
Absolutely.
I think speaking about, life had to just go on, you had to just keep working it out. So what's a typical day like in the office for you?
Starts off with a nice coffee in the morning.
What's the flavour?
So.
What flavour? Cappuccino,
No,
mocha,
just basic.
milk, sugar?
No, just basic Americano. There's a lemon tree deli next door to us. So,
Oh, okay,
which is really nice, and I just have to stop there every morning.
Do you get their panini sandwiches?
No, I don't actually.
Do you not?
I'm trying to stay off bread.
Okay.
But no, I have had them, and they're very good.
Yeah.
So my regular is a soup in the afternoon.
Okay.
But, have you been there?
Oh yeah, I used to work right by Regent Centre.
Yes, yeah.
And used to work for CC back there, Clifford Chance, where it used to have an office over there.
Yeah.
So I used to pop up for lunch over there. Tex-Mex, nice little panini sandwich for break.
So start off with the coffee. I try and get in a little bit early so I can catch up with emails, catch up with works. About 8ish I'm in the office before the 9 o'clock rush begins.
Right.
And then after that it's just non-stop. So depending on the day, depending on what meetings I have, if I'm out of the office or if I'm in the office. And then usually 5 till 6:30 in the evening is my drafting time. That's when I sit and actually do some work, quote unquote, because everything other than that is just managing rather than...
Would you say, like, as you go up in a law firm, your role turns less about law and being a lawyer and more about managerial?
Absolutely.
So would you say then, like, when you are recruiting for TCs and trainees and stuff, you're kind of looking, do they actually have that business mindset a little bit? Because you're looking a little bit in the future. Are they going to, think about the firm? Because, from what I've heard when I was working, is clients no longer just want a firm to be a firm. They want you to be a business partner. They want you to open up the way for them. This is an opportunity coming up. We can work on it with you. So how much of that is affecting you in your decision making?
You're absolutely right. The law is not just about the search for the perfect contract, because whilst you are negotiating 500 revisions of the same contract with the other solicitor, there's a client in the background who's commercially suffering because they can't get into their property, they can't start trading, they can't buy the business or whatever else they want to do. So the search for the perfect contract should never come in the way of commerciality. When we're looking for trainees, we always, obviously it's all changed now with the SQE, but with the training contracts, the way we worked was we would get them in as paralegals, train them in-house with our in-house Sweeney Miller way. So everybody's doing things Sweeney Miller way. We're all singing from the same hymn sheet. We're not doing your way or my way or, the highway. But once and what we would look for is absolutely technically they have to be bright, but equally they have to understand commerciality, they have to understand business sense, they have to understand that when they are on the front line, that's something that they are going to be responsible for. So those are the kind of things we look for in people.
Nice.
So what would you say is the Sweeney Miller way?
Consistency. Consistency is absolutely important, where we expect people to learn things the way we do things. And so if a client calls about a family matter, they get exactly the same level of service and the same level of expertise that they get from a commercial property matter or a corporate merger and acquisition or whatever it is.
You mentioned how we no longer do TCs anymore. So now it's like, just time, qualification time, essentially.
That's right.
So how's your approach changed? Has it changed at all?
Very much so, yes, because, and again, we are learning as we go on. The QWE, we've set out a QWE policy as to how that works.
Sorry, QWE?
The qualifying work experience.
Oh, yeah, qualifying work
experience. So what we say is that once you meet certain criteria, you can then commence your QWE, and that's for 2 years. Alongside that, there was the apprenticeship route for SQEs, where 3 people have started this September on the apprenticeship route.
Right.
So we put the 3, the ones that we felt were ready to go through that. Obviously, we're paying for them to go to Leeds, wherever the course is, and all those kind of things, and paying for.
Do you do that through a university or through SILEX? Or
University of Law.
University of Law.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that so it's still evolving, but that is the process. The QWE and the SQE. I feel very sorry for the new cohort as to, because it was a perfectly good system. Training contracts worked so well, and with the SQE, it almost goes against the grain of everything that we've been taught as lawyers.
Yeah.
You get a statement and you can argue it from both sides, depending on context, depending on
of course.
anything. But with SQE, when you have to choose the single best answer,
it
you're
goes
almost taking away that thinking power. You're taking away
course.
the reasoning and the argumenting, arguing power.
Do you feel a little bit is lacking when the new trainees come in from just the SQE? I have heard from firms sometimes that they say, the old method that used to be there, you would get so much more, a lot of people would do, with their masters, or they would do it in a university where they got so much more teaching and client negotiations, client care, all of that. I have heard like that's a little bit lacking nowadays when it comes to the new, because of the SQE. Is that something you see?
To be honest, we've always, even with the training contracts, when graduates came in, we've always assumed that they know nothing.
Yeah.
So even when they come in and we talk to them about restrictive covenants or something like that, they look at us as if we're talking Latin. So from day one, we've always assumed that when somebody comes in, they don't know these things, and we've always trained them. This is a pen. This is how you hold it. This is how you write with it. This is So we kind of start from scratch always. With the training, whether it was training contracts or SQE, our own method has always been that we get people in as graduates, as paralegals, and then when they have proven that they meet all those, they are able to talk to a client without looking at their phone and talk to whatever it is that
is that a big issue. iPad.
Massive issue, yes. So when they can prove those certain things, at that point we then give them training contracts or put them through the SQE.
Right.
So I don't think it's made material difference to the quality of people that are coming through. But yes, it's evolving, as I say. So,
do you find any part of your job super annoying?
Tech. I'm like this old woman who struggles with tech. Yeah, I mean, technology there's obviously a big push on technology.
Yeah, no, of course.
And AI is a big buzzword. And
legal tech's been growing every single year.
Absolutely. Copilot is a big one.
Yeah.
We're using quite a bit of that. But, for me to get my head around tech is a little bit more difficult, I guess, than the younger people.
Do you have a strategy for dealing with AI? Because obviously quite a lot of firms have been caught out with solicitors over-relying on that technology.
Correct, yeah, that's right.
And
so we have
too, by the way.
So far we've mandated only 2 tasks that people can do on AI, which we've extensively tested using the exact keywords that they can't change, because depending on the keywords it gives a completely different answer. What we've allowed is we've mandated that you can only use it for these 2 particular tasks, and that's it. We are testing other tasks. When we are satisfied that it can do it and do it well, then we'll roll it out. For the moment, it's very limited use.
Yeah. And that seems a very sensible approach, actually, because it makes so many mistakes.
It does.
Oh,
yeah. It does. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But it's fantastic. In terms of the potential for AI, it's amazing as to what it can do.
How much implementation have you seen in the industry so far?
We never know actually what the other side are using. So, unless, obviously there are some that look like they've been AI generated. We see that
Relativity, has it included AI? Sorry.
What's that, sorry?
Relativity? The doc review tech.
No, I don't Don't think so.
No?
Don't think so, no. Where we see a lot of AI is CVs that are coming in, which are the covering letters AI generated. And as soon as you see them, you just put them to one side because they're just not what you're looking for. You're looking for something more personal. You're looking for something that's, that's tailored to why you're applying for this particular job. You're not looking for somebody who's gone on and just, said, make me a covering letter for this particular firm or whatever.
What do you look for in a cover letter?
Sincerity.
Okay.
Sincerity. Why are you wanting that job? As soon as you see a cover letter that says, I'm going to be a great asset to your firm, that's straight away it's to one side because, at this stage it's not about what you're able to give. It's about how much you're going to work, what this job means to you, why you're applying, what you have done to research about the firm, what is it that you are able to give at this stage.
Right.
I'm somebody who works hard. I'm somebody who has these skills, and I think these skills could be valuable with the right training, but not necessarily somebody who thinks that he's going to come in on day one and suddenly be a great asset for whatever reason.
Yeah. What kind of tasks do you think trainees do usually when they start off at Sweeney Miller? Yeah.
We have a very defined training program, so they go into something called an admin pool. So the first 2 weeks, they do an induction with just admin tasks.
Okay.
Because a lot of them have never used this management system. They've never used legal softwares. So they come in and go into something called the admin pool where, like I say, we literally show them, this is a pen, this is what you do with it, this is what it's used for. And then literally from scratch, we show them how to send an email, how to, whatever it is that they need to do and how to save and how to do the most basic tasks. Then they get put onto a live team, depending on the subject area that they're working in, the department that they're working in. And then they progress from there doing training manuals and training tasks. And
do you give them practice exercises? Or is it just straight client work?
They work on live files.
Right,
they
okay.
Work on live files, so they don't do dummy files.
Okay. And then just quality check it to make sure.
Exactly.
Right, perfect. What's your most exciting project, you say? Obviously without naming any client names.
I do a lot of hospitality, so I do a lot of restaurants, pubs, bars, things like that.
Yeah.
So a lot
Any
of
fights?
the ones.
Any bar fights you had to deal with?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of the ones in town, done loads in the Sunderland regeneration area, just done one recently, a really prominent one in London. So it tends to be a lot of restaurants, bars, those kind of things.
Do you get clients from London as well?
Yeah, we get clients from across the country.
How's that approach kind of worked? Is it just because you're a Newcastle firm? I would think, if you're a London company, you would say, oh, we have the best firms over here. Why do I look anywhere else?
Because we can offer the same service far cheaper than what a London solicitor can. It's called north shoring.
Okay.
So there's a specific term where a lot of London people think they're getting a fantastic deal by using a firm up north, which they do. Even with 100% markup on our fee, they're still, we're still far cheaper than what they can get down south for their money. Yeah. Plus the kind of service they get. A lot of our work comes from recommendations. It comes from referrers that are based down south, so they refer. A lot of it comes from spin-offs. So if a client has used us to buy a house, they then come back saying, "Can you also do this for me?" Word of mouth
helps quite a lot as well. I'm guessing. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Any current trends in the legal industry you think are challenges or trends that's occurring at the moment?
AI, we just mentioned. AI is a big one. That's the buzzword in the legal industry at the minute. Fiscal events are a big one. As you know, the budget today. I don't know if you know about that.
Rachel Reeves' budget today. Yeah.
Almost always when there is a big fiscal event like that, it has a shock on the legal market. Yeah. So for the last few weeks, nobody has sold a business, bought a house, done those kind of things because they were waiting to see what happens to the budget. So those kind of things affect the legal industry. Cybersecurity is a big one. So it's a massive issue at the minute. We all got so excited when biometric ID verification came in, only to find out that actually it's all out of date now because deep fakes can make up, your video biometric verification. Right. So that's already out of date. So it's, again, tech is where the exciting features are and challenges.
Surely that deep fakes affect face a lot more than fingerprint, because that could still be used.
Yeah, but we don't do fingerprint verification for the kind of ID that we do.
Okay.
So it's usually the biometric, Apple ID kind of, that biometric verification, which is the standard across the board now for ID verification.
What's the kind of tech you use at the moment in terms of devices?
In terms of the actual...
Yeah, in terms of laptops and stuff.
Yeah, we use laptops and PCs.
Is it Windows, Apple? So are you going?
Windows, I guess.
Windows, yeah.
Windows, yes.
Windows, yeah. Big tech person, so need to know all the little details.
What about the current legislation that's coming in? I mean, obviously I've got a particular interest in landlord.
Yeah.
I was wondering about the impact of the leasehold reform bill. And
Your favourite subject as well.
Renters' rights bill, that's a big
bill.
one at the minute.
Yes,
That's a
exactly.
massive one coming in. Well, it's been passed, and the first part of it comes in force on the 1st of May.
Isn't it?
We've got a big landlords conference happening tomorrow, which we are hosting, where literally there's 250 landlords from across the country that are coming up to that. So yeah, lots going on in the legal world. There's talk about the employment rights bill coming in next year.
Yes.
So yeah, keeps us busy, keeps us all busy and
Absolutely.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously you've been recognised in the legal industry as being an inspirational woman of the law, which is was a fantastic accolade. But who would you look to for inspiration? Who are your inspirations? Would you
My
say?
dad, primarily, who started a business out of nowhere and turned into a very successful business. In the legal industry, my mentor at the time and my business partner of many years, Paul Miller, I would say he was somebody I would really look up to, and he's been crucial in my legal journey up to this point. Yeah, those are my inspirations, I would say.
Yeah, Bronwen mentioned about your accolades, so I was just wondering, over the years, how has the industry changed for women in law, especially in the leadership position? I hear statistics that solicitors now are close to that 50-50 mark.
Actually, there
Are
are
there?
more women in law.
More women,
than
there you
there
go.
are men, but very few
On the
in
partner
leadership
level.
position. Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah, so how is that changing? Is there like significant progress every year, or how's it go?
There is a push, and it's a burden on all of us in leadership positions to make sure that that's carried on, because it's only fair when women make up more than 50% of the
Of course.
the profession. Why shouldn't women be in leadership positions? And we're obviously heading in the right direction, but there's a lot to be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Still.
Do you have like any measures that help with kind of eradicating a little bit of that bias between people?
We are a very strong women-led firm, so
Okay.
as far as
Yeah,
we are
no, of
concerned,
course.
we have actually have more women both in leadership positions and in the firm than we have men. So if anything, sometimes we have to go and say, let's get a guy in, come on, we've got enough women now. So sometimes we have to discriminate the other way.
I mean, bias can work both ways.
Well,
so,
exactly, yeah,
so of course, so do you have measures in place then for the men in the firm, if it's highly women than?
Yeah, we do. We don't have any form. Obviously, we can't discriminate on the basis
No,
of
of
either
course.
being a man or a woman. So ultimately, it's about finding the right candidate who's available and who applies. But we always try. There's always this conscious attempt on our part to make sure there's enough representation within the firm, whether it's man or woman, whether it's diverse people, whether it's people from different backgrounds, people from different religions. Only because I remember when I was a paralegal and I went to Paul Miller, who at the time was my boss, and I said, what do I need to do to get a training contract? And he said to me that you have got access to a market that I will never have. So use it to your advantage. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm always conscious of that there are people from other diverse backgrounds who could bring something else to the table that other people may not, for whatever reason. So as a firm, we always have this conscious attempt to make sure there's enough representation from all walks of life, diverse people, whether it's man, woman, whatever it is. We try and consciously make that
Right.
that
That conscious attempt all the time. I have a very fun question in here, which is, you see suits and you see the law firm's name keeps changing.
Yes, doesn't happen.
Spectre,
No, it doesn't happen.
Lair.
The cost of changing signs is far too high.
I was going to ask you, why is it not Sweeney Miller Vedhara at the very bottom,
There's no Sweeney and there's no Miller.
So
there.
just Vedhara then.
Exactly. Well, there's other people, but there's no Sweeney and no Miller. But once you've established yourself as a brand, you then almost have to restart educating people about a new brand, and that they have to
of course.
associate. So in practice, it doesn't happen. It might happen on suits, it might happen in America, but not so common here.
Yeah.
Not to happen.
Just before our last segment, I just want to give the opportunity to the people here to just ask you any questions they like,
Sure.
if they have any.
Which tasks were specifically mandated to use for AI to use?
So the best use of AI is in something where the processes are very set. So where the processes are defined and set in a particular way. So within conveyancing, for example, property, I don't know whether, do you know conveyancing? Do you all do conveyancing? So when you're buying a house, the process for that is called conveyancing. What you would then do is you would do searches against a property. Searches are done where a search provider would go to a search to the council and obtain searches from there. We then have to sit and interpret those searches and put them onto our case management system, which for a person it must take about half an hour or so to do, because there are 4 searches that have to be reviewed. So it takes about half an hour or so to do that, have a look at the searches, put them in. Those searches, if you put them into Copilot, within half a second, it pulls out the information from the searches and produces a Word document that you can just straight away forward to the client. So that's one task. Another task was reviewing mortgage offers. So when you get a mortgage offer, if you put that into Copilot and use the wording that we've created and just produce a client summary on the mortgage report,
Right.
it pulls out the key information into a Word document that you can then forward on. So it's worked very, very well with that within half a second.
Can I ask why extension? Like why specifically Copilot as opposed to any other AI?
It's just the one we trialed. It's obviously, we use a lot of Microsoft products, Outlook and things like that within the firm, and it's an extension of those products. So if you have yet another system, you have to then think about how do you integrate that with the rest of Microsoft. So with Microsoft, this is just an add-on. So it just made sense to do that.
You mentioned you had interaction with Paul Miller, was it?
Yes, yeah.
How
Mhm.
old was the firm itself and how big
Two-
has it grown since you became managing partner?
So Peter Sweeney and Paul Miller started the firm in 2002, so we're just under 25, about 23 plus years now. 2007 was when I joined. At the time, we were literally just a tiny firm in Sunderland. We had about 20 odd staff, so it wasn't a big firm by any means. We just had the Sunderland office doing much smaller volumes of work and much less number of areas as well. Then I joined 2007. 2013 was when I became partner. My first job was to open a Newcastle office because, nothing to do with the fact that I live in Newcastle, but it just seemed like the next step to do. And I think that was the crucial moment when we just grew.
Yeah.
And, we grew, we attracted the right people, we made a name for ourselves. We're now the biggest firm in Sunderland by far. And in Newcastle, we are towards the sort of the top end of the mid-sector firm. So we're not a national firm by any means. There are your Ward Hadaways and Clifford Chances and, the nationals. And then you've got the mid-sector firms. And then we're kind of in that bracket.
If you had the opportunity to say a few things to yourself at the start of your career, what would you say?
Do exactly the same things, make exactly the same mistakes, don't change. And, every mistake has got me to the point where I am now. And yes, in hindsight, could have done things quicker, could have done things differently. I could have probably done things differently, but it's worked out, and I think I'm okay with that.
Do you ever do work with other law firms? So you mentioned London. You do work for London firms. You ever work with those London firms?
On the other side of us? Or
Working with.
we have always been very collaborative. So we have sort of, when we can't act on other side of a transaction, for example, if the same seller and buyer approach us, because of conflict rules, you can't act for both. We can leave the other guy to go and find somebody off Google who may or may not be good, may add, 10 weeks to a transaction that doesn't need to be done, or we refer them to somebody who we regularly work with. So we try and be collaborative. Is that what you mean? Work with other firms in that sense? So yeah, we've got quite a sort of close-knit legal community within the Northeast.
Yeah.
So we try and work collaboratively as much as we can.
I think, I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but a commercial firm, not just a law firm, like any company, they tend to use multiple law firms for different activities based on what you're specialized in and used for. And at occasions, you usually have to collaborate with them to kind of deliver a full product. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we do that. Obviously, we do offer a lot of the services in-house. So the kind of our clients, tend to use. So we will have within the same firm different departments that will deal with the same transaction. So your corporate law department will deal with the corporate work. Alongside that, there might be a commercial property transaction going on. They might do commercial property. There might be employment issues going on alongside. So it's more kind of departments that collaborate.
There's less WA movies like a TV show.
Yes, definitely. TV shows
So you have rivalry
within the departments.
just kind of with other firms, I mean.
Yeah, I suppose there are.
Healthy
But
competition.
Healthy competition,
Yeah,
I would
of
say.
course.
Yeah, it's not rivalry as such. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we wouldn't badmouth another firm or, there's enough work to go around
Yeah.
for everyone. In fact, people are screaming out for more lawyers, so it's not.
I wish that was the same for training contracts,
Yes.
Just please more training contracts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's become harder with SQE.
Yeah, no, of course. How do you all tackle that, by the way? Because, there's some firms in London I've heard, if you don't pass your SQE, you get dropped from your training contract.
We've not implemented a policy about what happens if you fail. We have had one or two that failed, and we just moved them onto a training contract. They were the last batch that could have
Right.
signed up.
Okay.
So we just did that and moved them onto a training contract. We'll find out what happens with the next batch, next
Right, okay.
cohort. Like I said, 3 have started SQE just this September. We hope that they'll pass. We
Yeah, no, of
haven't,
course.
We'll discuss on a case-by-case basis what happens if they don't.
Of course. Do we have any other questions?
Just logistically, I'm Morrison becoming a barrister.
Mm-hmm.
How does that interaction with chambers happen? Do you have a set chambers you go to quite often for wherever commercial or chancery type work?
Yes, yeah. So the kind of departments that will instruct barristers usually are litigation and family. So the ones that we have, so they regularly work with the Trinity Chambers, for example, Deer Street barristers. So there's 2 or 3 that once you've developed a link with a particular barrister, you tend to go back to the same chamber and the same barrister. So they've got their preferred favourite panel of barristers, if you like.
You have a
that they-
favorite barrister?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what they do.
I was wondering if you could talk more about the support systems you've got in place for your new trainees and how you can support them.
Like I said, we've got this defined training program where they come in. Initially, they start off in the admin pool, where there's 2 people in the admin pool that are in charge of them. So they come in, they train them on basic admin tasks. They then move to a team. Until recently, Paul Miller was our designated training provider, because after he stepped out from the partnership, he was running a training program. So he would take over the training. We're now in kind of a transition period where we've got somebody else who's looking at training. But between the team leader and the head of department, there's training that's delivered to them. We've had some renowned speaker do sessions and video recordings on how to review contracts, how to look at certain things in a commercial property matter, for example.
Yeah.
So those kind of videos and things have been done, and the heads of departments coordinate the training program to
Right.
say, this is right, you've done this task, you've done this.
Right.
You now need to move on to this level, which is this.
Okay.
So almost like a brownie point. We talk about it like a Sweeney Miller Academy, where
It's
you've
like
passed
progressive
level 1,
in its,
you're now level
yeah.
2, that sort of
Of
thing.
course.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then what kept you in the Northeast?
Family. I moved here, so got married, moved here. My husband's, he likes to think of himself as a Geordie, just because he was born here. But so family. I've just been here, got his entire family here. My kids are here now, and
I have heard people
This is
say
home.
once you come north, you can't
You
leave.
don't go anywhere
You
else,
don't leave,
yeah.
you just stay. You're locked in for life.
But there are so
Don't
many
have a choice.
opportunities here as
Yeah,
well.
no, of
There's-
course.
yeah.
I have heard, Leeds has been like the secondary legal hub
Yes.
of the country,
Yes,
and
yeah.
it's slowly creeping up to Newcastle as well. Obviously, Manchester has a massive branch,
Yes.
but I think when I moved to Newcastle, I looked at it as like a hidden gem of a city, and I think every year, unfortunately for myself, it's getting revealed a little bit, and people are like, "Oh, Newcastle's quite a nice place." on one hand, it's more opportunity, so it's always great, but on the other hand, it means loads of inflow,
People
it'll
want
be
to come
clouded
in.
again.
That's right.
So
You'll
yeah.
That's
never
right.
lose your connection to the Northeast.
Oh yeah.
I think it's got all the advantages of a big city without the hassles of a big city.
Yeah.
So we've got everything on our doorstep. We've got a fantastic airport. You can get anywhere from here. You've literally got all the big firms here.
Yeah.
Everybody wants an office now in Newcastle. That seems to be the trend. Clifford Chance, you mentioned.
Yeah.
A lot of the bigger firms use Newcastle almost as a back office.
Yeah.
So why would you go anywhere else? There's no need to go anywhere else.
Yeah, fair enough.
You mentioned your daughter is doing a law degree.
Yeah.
You didn't do a law degree yourself except for the GDL. If you had a chance to go back and change that, would you take the 3 years and do the law degree instead of the GDL?
If I was at a different stage of my life, yes. Obviously, when I moved here, I I wasn't mobile. I just got married, moved here. I didn't have the luxury of time. I was older. I was much older. When I started, I was 23, 24. So I was already behind a lot of the law students. So if I had the time, yes, absolutely, I would love to go back and be a student again and do the whole law degree, which I kind of missed out on.
Do you think that business management degree helped you quite a lot in Sweeney Miller?
Definitely did help me with the commerciality side of things.
Right.
And that's what clients appreciate, is the understanding of how a business works behind the scenes, and the fact that I can understand that rather than just, like I say, search for the perfect contract and the perfect document, because it's not about that.
So in a way, even though you chose the degree kind of just to do something, is that correct? Because you weren't really passionate about it at the time, were you?
No, I had no idea about
it
this.
still
Yeah,
laid down the foundations of what
yeah.
I think there's an idea, especially in American firms, that if you went to college or high school and you wanted to apply for something for law, you don't actually need a degree, or like in the States it's obviously a postgrad, so you would have like a college degree, and most people do poli science, but you don't actually need that to apply to law school over there, and neither over here do they ask for any subjects. And I think that kind of shows why is any subject that you bring can actually bring a lot into the law, because the law can always be learned.
The law is universal. It applies to everything. It applies, this is what separates us from animals, isn't it? It's what makes a civilized society different from an uncivilized society. This is what we all understand and keeps us right. So it absolutely, that's, you're absolutely right, that you, even with the SQE now, you don't need to have a law degree and then convert, you don't need to do any of that. So I suppose the one thing good about the SQE is that you don't need the qualifying degree. Anybody from any walk of life can come and take the exam and, like the American system, become a lawyer.
Yeah.
So it opens up opportunities.
That's brilliant.
So I think since we are kind of running out of time a little bit, so perhaps you could share with us one of the most valuable pieces of advice that you've received along the way.
I remember Paul saying to me that if you throw enough energy at something, something will stick. So do something, do it really well, do it with all your energy, do it with zest, and you will get there. You will do well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Surbhi.
Yeah,
It's been an
a
absolute pleasure to
Thank you
speak
for
to
giving
you
up your
and
time.
have you here. I think you answered a lot of our questions, and a lot of what it takes to be a solicitor and a managing partner in the modern legal world today. A lot of us are neophyte. We are like really budding in our journey, trying to, I don't know if everyone in this room has even made a decision yet, and to be a solicitor, to be a barrister, to even be a lawyer, because you can use your law degree for various things.
That's right.
So I think it gave us a lot of perspectives, which funnily enough is the name of the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.